They say a quiet life is a blessing. That comfort, stability, and routine are what we should all strive for. And for the longest time, I believed I had all three. A good job, two beautiful children, a husband who never raised his voice, never raised a hand, and never forgot to take the trash out. Mark was consistent, steady, dependable in the way a porch light always flicks on at dusk. And yet, I began to feel invisible inside the life we built. It started small. I'd ask how his day was, and he'd respond with numbers, sales targets, project updates, quarterly forecasts. No stories. No questions in return. Dinner became quiet. Our bedroom colder. We weren't fighting. We were just drifting. I wondered if he noticed. Sometimes I hoped he didn't, because if he did and still said nothing, that would hurt more. Then Aaron moved in. Mark's younger brother, 10 years apart, same sharp jawline, but looser, warmer, alive in a way Mark hadn't been in years. Aaron had just ended a messy relationship, and Mark offered him our guest room without asking me. Just for a few weeks, he said. He needs space to sort himself out. I told myself it was fine, that we were doing the right thing. Family helps family. But from the moment Aaron walked in with his duffel bag and crooked smile, the energy in our house shifted. He laughed loudly, made sarcastic comments during movies, left cereal bowls in the sink. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. One night, I found him on the porch after the kids were in bed, nursing a beer and staring at nothing. "Can't sleep?" I asked. He shook his head. "Just thinking too much. Happens when it's quiet." We talked for an hour. About nothing and everything. He told me about his failed engagement, how he felt like a fraud most days, how he hated being pitted. I listened, and for the first time in months, someone looked me in the eye when I spoke. It became a pattern. Quiet conversations after dark. Shared silences that felt intimate, not empty. I'd find myself laughing too easily, noticing the way his voice dipped when he got serious, the way he called me by name like it mattered. I didn't intend to let my guard down. I just wanted to feel noticed. Mark was always working late. The kids had their routines. And suddenly, it felt like Aaron and I were the only ones awake in a sleeping house. Nothing had happened. Not yet. But I felt something shifting under my skin, like a hairline crack in glass. Barely visible but spreading. And deep down, I knew I was already standing too close to the edge. It happened on a Thursday. The kind of night where the sky hung heavy with rain but refused to break, pressing in on the windows like a secret waiting to be confessed. The kids were at my parents' house for the weekend. Mark had a client dinner across town, one of those all-evening events he never asked if I minded. I didn't. I'd stopped hoping for small courtesies a long time ago. Aaron was in the living room, a movie playing, half-watched. I passed through, meaning to go straight upstairs, but something in his posture caught me, shoulders slumped, fingers clenched around a sweating beer bottle. "You okay?" I asked, lingering in the doorway. He exhaled hard. "Got a message from her today. My ex said she's getting married. To the guy she told me not to worry about." I sat down beside him, cautious. "I'm sorry." He didn't look at me. "I know I wasn't perfect, but I really tried, you know? I wanted to be her home." There was something so raw in his voice, something I hadn't heard in years. Not from Mark. Not from anyone. "I know what that feels like," I said. The words came too quickly, too honestly. He turned to me, our knees nearly touching. "Do you?" I nodded. And then silence. Thick, charged, and impossibly fragile. Maybe it was the wine I'd had earlier. Maybe it was the storm finally starting to fall, the soft patter of rain against the windows. Or maybe it was that I felt more seen in that moment than I had in a decade. He reached for my hand. I didn't pull away. "I'm sorry," he said, voice low. And then he kissed me. It wasn't impulsive. It was slow, searching, like a question asked and answered at the same time. Every fiber of me screamed to stop. But I didn't. We moved without words. The moment stretched into something neither of us could undo. My mind fractured, part of me watching from outside, horrified, while the other leaned into the warmth, the wanting, the terrible relief of being desired. After, we sat in silence. The rain heavier now. Our breathing uneven. I shouldn't have, he started. Don't, I whispered. We can't talk about this. I dressed in the dark and left the room like it was burning. When Mark came home hours later, he kissed my cheek and asked if I'd slept. I lied. Of course I lied. Lying would become easy, I'd learn. But that first time felt like swallowing glass. Lying in bed beside him, I stared at the ceiling and tried to imagine this didn't happen. That I could wake up tomorrow and be the woman he still believed in. But I couldn't unwrite the night. And I couldn't unfeel what I'd felt. I had crossed a line. And everything would be different now. The morning after felt like walking through a dream I didn't belong in. I made breakfast. I packed the kids' lunches. I kissed Mark goodbye. All the motions, perfectly rehearsed, as if my body had memorized the choreography of domestic life, even as my mind screamed behind the curtain. Aaron avoided me. For days. When we crossed paths, he'd mumble something and disappear into the garage or out for a run. I didn't blame him. I didn't know what I'd say either. What could I say? Sorry, I turned your heartbreak into my escape? Sorry I needed to feel wanted so badly, I mistook pain for love. Mark noticed the distance. Not with Aaron, he was oblivious there, but with me. He asked if I was tired, stressed, coming down with something. He brought home Thai food one night and said, "Thought you could use a break." The thoughtfulness undid me more than any fight would have. Guilt doesn't always roar. Sometimes it sits beside you at dinner, silent, chewing slowly. Sometimes it folds your laundry and puts it in the wrong drawer, just to see if you'll flinch. I tried to overcorrect. More affection. More initiative in bed. More I love yous spoken like rituals. Mark responded, grateful, unaware. And that made it worse. Because I was not being kind, I was performing penance. I thought about telling him. I rehearsed it in my head late at night, in the shower, in traffic. But every version ended with the same thing: broken kids, bitter silence, a life turned to ash. And then Aaron texted, "Do you ever think about it?" Just 7 words, but they landed like a hammer. I deleted the message. Deleted the thread. I stared at my phone until it shut itself off. The answer, of course, was yes. I thought about it constantly. But not like he did. He could leave. Fade from our lives. Move on. Bury it. I had to live in the space it tore through. I had to keep smiling, keep folding towels, keep answering the question, "How was your day?" with practiced ease. One afternoon, I began writing everything down in a notebook just to get it out. Every detail. Every emotion. I hid it beneath my winter clothes in the back of the closet. Not to confess. Just to remember that it had happened. That I had done this. I told myself it was for closure. But part of me feared it was just another lie, one I whispered only to myself. I wasn't sure who I was anymore. A wife. A mother. A traitor. All 3 depending on the day. The worst part wasn't what I had done. It was how normal everything looked afterward. How no one knew. How no one could ever know. Aaron moved out 2 weeks later. No big goodbye. No awkward hugs. Just a nod, a mumbled "thanks for everything," and the sound of his car pulling away for the last time. Mark didn't seem to notice anything unusual. He even said, "Kind of nice having the house back to ourselves, huh?" I smiled, nodded, excused myself to fold towels I'd already folded that morning. Life continued. Our daughter lost her first tooth. Our son started piano lessons. I baked cookies. I remembered to laugh. I remembered to show up. But underneath, something had calcified. A quiet ache I carried like a splinter under the skin. Invisible. Always there. One night, I sat at the kitchen table while Mark slept upstairs. The house was still. I pulled out the notebook I'd been hiding and opened it to the first page. I read every word I'd written. Slowly. Deliberately. As if it had happened to someone else. Then I tore out each page, one by one, and fed them into the sink. Set a match to the edges. Watched the paper curl and blacken and vanish, piece by piece, until nothing remained but the smell of smoke and soap. I cleaned the sink. Washed it twice. scrubbed until my hands went raw. It didn't feel like forgiveness. It felt like survival. I never told Mark. Not because I believed I deserved mercy, but because I knew the truth would wreck him. Not just him. The kids, too. Our life, with all its flaws, would shatter beyond repair. And some ruins don't get rebuilt. Some truths don't heal. They only wound. So I kept it. That was my choice. My punishment. And I serve it daily. Sometimes I catch Mark watching me across the room, his eyes soft, full of unspoken affection. It guts me, because I know what he sees isn't the whole me anymore. It's the version I fight to maintain. The one I preserve for the sake of everything we've built. I've never cheated again. I never will. That night wasn't passion. It was collapse. It was grief in disguise. It was loneliness clawing its way into the wrong arms. I live differently now. More present. More careful. I pour myself into our family, not to erase what I did, but because it's all I have left to hold on to. When people say, "You're lucky. Your life looks perfect," I smile. I say thank you. I don't correct them. Because they don't know. They can't. And they never will.